I opened my eyes and immediately closed them again. The glare from the lights above me were too bright for my eyes to handle. I blinked a couple of times and tried again. This time I managed to focus, but as I looked around me, I had no idea where I was. All I could see were machines, and all I could hear was a strange beeping noise. Suddenly, I realized where I was. I was in a hospital room. What happened? What am I doing here?
Noel, you're awake.
You've been in a coma, darling.
But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell to make sure you don't end up in the same predicament as me. What do you mean, a coma? How? What happened? As my parents began to explain what had happened to me, I grew more and more shocked.
You got into a car crash, and because of your injuries, the doctors put you into a coma for a month. Your body needed time to heal, but there's nothing to worry about. They have said that you're doing fine now.
I couldn't believe what they were telling me. I couldn't recall anything about a car crash. In fact, I couldn't remember much. About a week after I woke up from a coma, I was allowed to leave the hospital. I was happy to be going home, and I couldn't wait to get back to school to see all of my friends. But my first day back at school didn't go quite as well as I thought it would. I expected my friends to be really happy to see me, but instead, they looked quite shocked. And I'm not really sure why, but I had the feeling that they were actually a bit scared. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me so strangely?
Your parents.
But before he had a chance to continue what he was saying, one of my other friends cut him off by jabbing his elbow into his side.
We're just happy to have you back.
Even though he was smiling as he said it, I had a really strong feeling that the smile was fake. When I got home from school, I told my parents about my friends acting so weird.
Oh, I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. They were probably just shocked to see you out of the hospital so soon.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe I misunderstood their looks. I decided that my parents were probably right, and I should just forget about what had happened at school. I'm going up to my room now. I'm pretty exhausted after my first day at school.
Okay, darling. Probably best not to overdo things too soon.
But when I tried to go to sleep, I couldn't. I kept on remembering the looks on my friends' faces when they saw me. I was lying there thinking about it when I suddenly heard the sound of my dad's car engine starting up. I peered out of my bedroom window and saw that both Mom and Dad were in their car. That's strange. I wonder where they're going to at this time of night. I decided that I would follow them. I couldn't get to sleep anyway, so I might as well satisfy my curiosity. I jumped on my bike and raced after my parents. Dad never drove very fast, so it wasn't difficult for me to keep up with them. I followed them as they drove through the streets of our town. Eventually, they pulled into a car park of our local park. I watched as they walked into the park. Suddenly, I spotted my friends walking over from the other side of the park towards my parents. I didn't want them to see me, so I hid in a bush and listened as my parents started talking to my friends. I could only catch a couple of words. It sounded like they had said clone and died, but I couldn't be certain. But one thing I was certain about, my parents sounded pretty angry at my friends. I could see my dad pointing his finger and his manner seemed very aggressive. I had no idea what was going on, but I suddenly started to freak out. I jumped on my bike and started pedaling like mad to get home before my parents. The mood my dad was in, I didn't want him to realize that I had been out of the house. In the morning, my parents acted as though everything was normal. Neither of them mentioned that they had seen my friends the night before. Mom made us breakfast and chatted about what she was going to be doing that day. I didn't say that I had seen them go out the night before. It was obvious that they wanted to keep it a secret from me. When I arrived at school, my friends were standing in a group in the corner of the playground. I marched straight up to them and demanded to know what was going on. I saw you all last night. I know you met up with my parents and I heard everything you said. That was actually a lie, but they didn't know that. Even though I'd only heard a couple of words, I decided I would try to bluff it out. I know all about the clone. My friends' faces fell in shock when they heard what I had said.
Well, so he knows. Now what are we gonna do?
I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to tell me everything. My friends looked at each other and sighed.
I guess you deserve to know the truth.
They went on to explain to me exactly what had happened.
You didn't have a car crash. That was just a lie. Actually, we'd all been out on a camping trip to celebrate your birthday. We went far out, into the middle of nowhere. It was just your parents, you, and all of us. One day, you were walking along the cliff edge when you tripped over this boulder and fell straight over the cliff into the ocean. You died instantly. We were all distraught, but your parents seemed fine about it. Yeah, and when they saw what happened, they just took a machine out of their car and right before our eyes, they made a clone of you.
I couldn't believe what my friends were telling me.
We asked your parents how they had done it. They explained that they were both scientists and had been cloning you throughout your childhood. Yeah, they said you were pretty prone to having accidents and tragedies, so they kept on cloning you instead of having to face your death. If we hadn't witnessed them cloning you with our own eyes, we probably would never have believed it.
I didn't know what to say. I was literally speechless. I just stood there with my mouth open wide, trying to comprehend what they had just told me. So, am I a clone? But before any of my friends had a chance to answer, we heard the screech of tires and saw my parents' car coming to a stop outside the school gates. My mom and dad jumped straight out of the car and ran into the school towards us. I could see that my friends were terrified. Within seconds, my parents had tied up all of my friends. "Mom, Dad, stop! What do you think you're doing?" I ran over to my friend Adam and started untying the rope that was around his hands. Suddenly, I felt a sharp prick as a needle was pushed into my arm. 2 seconds later, everything went black. I woke up and squinted as the bright sunshine coming through the window hit me straight in the eyes. I blinked a couple of times. At first I thought I must be dreaming, but no, I was definitely awake. But what I saw around me was like something out of a nightmare. All of my friends were inside big glass tubes suspended in water. They were all asleep. Well, at least I hoped they were just asleep. Then I noticed that my parents were in the room. They were standing in front of a machine which was whirring away. Suddenly, the machine pinged, and I watched as I saw a clone of my friend Adam emerging from the machine. Adam looked at me and smiled. It was all too much for me to take in. I felt blackness begin to envelop me, and then I passed out. I woke up and blinked my eyes. I had no idea where I was. Then I realized that my parents and all my friends were standing beside my bed. I couldn't remember anything.
Noel, thank God. You're all right?
What happened to me? What am I doing here?
You were in a car crash, darling. So the doctors put you into a coma to let your body have time to heal.
We're so happy you're awake. We missed you at school so much.
I was shocked at what my parents had told me, but I was happy that I had come out of the coma and was fine. When I got back to school, all my friends made me feel so welcome.
It's good to have you back, Noel. We were worried about you for a while.
It's nice to be back. I settled back into school life and tried to forget that I'd ever been in a coma. My parents didn't seem too worried about me, so I knew that I wasn't going to suffer any lasting effects. I was at home one Saturday morning when my mom came into my room.
Your dad and I have to go out today. You'll be okay to get yourself some lunch, won't you?
Of course, Mom. You don't need to worry about me. I'll probably just spend the day watching TV and playing some online games.
Okay, well, don't spend too much time in front of your computer. It's not good for you.
I laughed at my mom. Okay, I won't. I made myself a sandwich and sat down to watch a movie. I watched movie after movie, but eventually I began to get a bit bored. I decided that I would go down to my dad's basement to have a look at what he was working on. My parents were scientists, so he was always in the middle of one experiment or another. He didn't usually let me go down to his basement without him, but he wouldn't even know I had been in there. I went down the steps to the basement and pushed the door. It was locked, but I knew Dad kept the key on the ledge above the door. I reached up for the key. Sure enough, it was there. I unlocked the door and pushed it open. Ah! What I saw as I entered the room made me scream out loud. The room was full of big glass tubes, and each one of them held one of my friends. They were suspended in water and fast asleep. Oh my God, what is going on? Why has my dad got my friends here in glass tubes? Suddenly, I heard the sound of my parents coming back. I quickly locked the door and put the key back in its place and ran back up the stairs. I reached the top just as my dad opened the front door.
Noel, what are you doing?
Oh, just going to the kitchen for some orange juice. Would you like some?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
My dad gave me a strange look. He was probably wondering if I had seen what was in the basement, but I didn't show anything on my face. Then my mom came into the house. Hey Mom, I was wondering, do you think we could all go out for dinner tonight as a celebration for me coming out of the coma?
That sounds like a lovely idea. We'll go for pizza.
I had no intention of going out for dinner with them. I just needed a plan to get them out of the house. I played along with it until it was 5 minutes before we were due to leave. Actually, Mom, I'm not really feeling that great. Why don't you and Dad go out? I don't want to ruin your evening.
Well, if you're sure. I mean, we can stay home too. We don't mind.
No, honestly, I'll be fine. I'm probably just gonna go straight to bed anyway.
Okay, darling, we won't be late home.
I listened until I heard the sound of their car turning out of the end of our street. Then I ran down the stairs and unlocked the basement door. I began to open up all the glass tubes. The water ran out, and slowly, each one of my friends began to wake up.
Noel, you saved us!
What's going on? Why would my dad do this to you all?
Because they've cloned us, just like they've cloned you.
What? I'm not a clone.
Oh, yes, you are! You didn't really have a car crash. They just told you that. Actually, they've been cloning you all of your life.
I don't believe you.
Well, if you don't believe us, we'll prove it to you. Come with us.
I followed my friends through a door at the back of the basement. I had always wondered what was in that room, but whenever I asked my dad, he always brushed it off.
Nothing for you to worry your head about.
But when I went through the door, I did more than worry. I screamed in terror. Ah! In front of me were dozens and dozens of clones, and they were all clones of me. Each one of them looked as though they had died in some terrible accident. One of them didn't even have a head, while others had various metal objects protruding out of their bodies.
You see, all your life you've been accident prone. So, instead of having to face your death, your parents cloned you each time you died.
Yes, Noel, that's right. We did.
I turned around to see my mom and dad standing in the doorway. Why? Why would you do that?
We couldn't face the thought of not having you here with us. So each time you had a terrible accident, we would just make another one of you.
Mom, Dad, you have to stop doing this. Promise me that if something happens to me, you'll just let me die.
No, we can't do that. We love you too much.
But what you're doing now is insane. You can't meddle with life like that.
But if something happened to you, our lives wouldn't be worth living.
I understand that, but I have to live my life naturally. What will be, will be.
Okay, if that's what you really want.
It is. And also, you have to let my friends go.
But we can't do that. We've already put their clones out into the world.
Well, you'll have to get rid of them somehow. My friend stood beside me, patiently waiting to see what my parents would do.
Okay, we will send the clones to live in another country. They will be well cared for. We have enough money to look after them all. All your friends are free to go.
I ran over to my parents and put my arms around both of them. Thank you. Thank you.
Just don't get yourself into any more accidents, okay, son?
Okay, Dad.